And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday, May 22nd. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to do my final rankings, my final divisional rankings. It'll be the AFC West this time to cap it off. So I'll get into that, rank each team, give my thoughts on what kind of seasons these teams could have, and that will be the first part of the show. Then from segments 2 through 4, we will go through the Sunday night, Thursday night, and Monday night matchups on the schedule. I'll talk about some of the better matchups, some of the intriguing matchups from each platform with NBC, Amazon Prime, and of course ESPN as well. So that'll be segments 2 through 4. So we'll start off with the Sunday night matchups, then the third part of the show we'll do Thursday night, and then the fourth part of the show we will do the Monday night matchups. And then in the final part of the show, this is something that I'm going to try to do each show for the foreseeable future, and that's go through each team's individual schedules and talk about some of their matchups, well, really all their matchups, and kind of give my early win-loss prediction with each team. So today we'll be doing the Eagles. So we're going to start off with the NFC East, and then we'll progress through each division. And yeah, that's what we will be doing for the foreseeable future. So with that being said, because there's a lot of teams, with that being said, let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the AFC West. So I pretty much have a graphic for every segment here. So we're going to start off with the AFC West rankings. And here we go. You got the 4 teams right here. The Broncos, the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Chiefs. So we're going to start off with the number 4 spot. And that is going to be the Denver Broncos. Now, the Broncos, they were a team that they were kind of up and down last season. They started off, I believe, 1-5. And they looked like they were going to finish with one of the worst records in the NFL. And, you know, you had Sean Payton talking about Nathaniel Hackett and saying how he was responsible for one of the worst coaching jobs ever. And it looked like Sean Payton was on the way to kind of match that and even eclipse that. But that ended up not being the case because the Broncos got hot. And at one point it looked like, hey, maybe they can make a run at the playoffs and sneak in. But they ended up finishing the season 7-10, I believe. And they missed out on the playoffs. And Russell Wilson didn't even finish the season. Jarrett Stidham started the last couple games. He did win one game, and that was against the Chargers. But then they lost against the Raiders the final week of the regular season. And that was it. Actually, no, they did finish 8-9. So, I mean, they were 1-5 to start the year. I mean, to finish 8-9, got to give them credit there. Some credit. But, yeah, this is a new era now. Russell Wilson is no longer there, even though they're still paying most of his contract. They drafted Bo Nix, so he's looked upon as the franchise guy moving forward. The Broncos did get rid of Jerry Jeudy, trading him to the Browns. You still got Cortland Sutton there for the time being. You got a couple of young running backs, Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin. I think they also drafted another running back, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. But, you know, and then you still have the defense as well with Patrick Surtain. And, you know, for me, I'm not really expecting much out of the Broncos this year. I think they're trying to begin their new era post-Russell Wilson. Because Sean Payton didn't want Russell Wilson. And he tried to make it work. And, you know, at times it looked like it was going to, but yeah, it didn't pan out, and now they're going in a different direction. Like I said, they drafted Bo Nix. They also got Zach Wilson, and you still got Jarrett Stidham there. So that's your quarterback room. And we'll see. I mean, I guess Bo Nix, he could be starting week one, or they could opt to start Jarrett Stidham. But I guess it really all depends on how they do in OTAs and training camp, and of course preseason. But I think it could be Bo Nix, it could be Jarrett Stidham. Maybe Zach Wilson, he impresses and they say, you know what, we're going to start him. But I don't see that. I think it's either going to be Stidham or Bo Nix in week one. But I could be wrong. So, but yeah, I'm not really expecting a lot out of the Broncos this year. I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. So I got them at 4. Then at 3, it's tough. I think it's kind of a toss-up between the Raiders and the Chargers, but I'm going to put the Raiders at 3. This is going to be the first full season with Antonio Pierce as the head coach. The Raiders, they played well when he took over. I mean, the Raiders looked like they were going to finish with one of the worst records in the NFL as well. But, Antonio Pierce stepped in and they looked like a better team. And, I mean, they put up 60 points against the Chargers on Thursday Night Football. They really like to play for they really like playing for this guy. And, as a Giant fan, I'm happy that, he was given the full-time job. And you had players like Max Crosby and Devontae Adams speaking out and saying, hey, we're not staying if he isn't named the head coach. I mean, Max Crosby supposedly was going to request a trade if they didn't make him the full-time head coach. But they ended up doing that. And, going into the season, you're going to have Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell battling it out for the starting quarterback job. And the Raiders, as a team, I mean, I like the playmakers they have on offense. I mean, they drafted Brock Bowers to go along with Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker. Going into his second year, was making plays for them last year. They also signed Michael Gallup as well. And it looks like, I mean, they signed Alexander Madison, but, I mean, I think Zamir White's going to be the lead back. And he showed you that, he could handle a heavy workload, when Josh Jacobs was out. So I think, the Raiders, they could finish around the same record as last year, 8-9, 9-8. I could see that. I think the defense, it showed you something last year. I mean, they went into Arrowhead and they really, gave the Chiefs a hard time and beat them. And, they also added Christian Wilkins to that defensive line to go along with Max Crosby. So I like the direction the Raiders are heading in. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they could be a team that hangs around 500. I mean, Gardner Minshew did a nice job filling in for Anthony Richardson last year. And like I said, I like the playmakers on offense. So I think the Raiders, they could be a scrappy team. They could give you a hard time. They might lose some close games. I think they'll hang around 500, but yeah, I got them at 3. And then at 2, I got the Chargers. And it's a new era with the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh's back in the NFL. And I think the Chargers, they could be a team that could sneak in as a wild card. I'm curious to see how it's going to go on offense because, I mean, it's a new look offense. You got a bunch of young receivers. You got Justin Herbert. You got a completely different backfield. You got the Ravens backfield, basically, with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. So, I think with Jim Harbaugh there, the defense is going to be better. And they tried to keep their veteran guys on that side of the ball with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. So they were able to keep those guys. And, look, I still think Justin Herbert, if he's right, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he's top 5. So I think the Chargers will be an improved team. I mean, they're definitely going to win, I think, more games than they did last year. But, yeah, I'm curious to see how they're going to do with all their young receivers. They drafted McConkey out of Georgia. You have Joshua Palmer. They're expecting, recently I saw a headline that they're expecting big things out of Quinn Johnston. They also drafted Jerry Rice's son as well. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes on offense. But I think, Justin Herbert's coming back. I know he missed some time last year towards the end because I think, what was it, he broke his thumb This is a thumb injury, I believe. So I expect Herbert to have a good year. But it's going to be, I think it's going to be an adjustment because, there's no more Keenan Allen, there's no more Mike Williams, there's no more Austin Eckler. So, yeah, it might take some time to gel with the young receivers that he has at his disposal now, but I think he'll be fine. And I think they have the right guy as their head coach because, wherever he's gone, he's changed the culture. I mean, the 49ers and with Michigan, I know they didn't win a Super Bowl when he was the head coach of the 49ers, but they got there, and they also made it to some NFC championship games as well. So, I mean, I'm not expecting that in year one, but we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I got them at 2. And then, of course, at 1, I got the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, what else is there to say? The Chiefs, coming off of back-to-back Super Bowl championships, pretty much everybody is back. They traded L'Jarius Sneed, but other than that, pretty much everyone is back. And I expect them to be penciled in to be at least in the championship game in 2024. And they're looking to three-peat, something that no NFL team has ever done. But I mean, they drafted Xavier Worthy, they signed Marquise Brown, and Rashid Rice is practicing, so we'll see. Well, actually, I think he did end up getting suspended, if I'm not mistaken, because I haven't really talked about the Rashid Rice situation, but I think he did. If I'm not mistaken, he did end up getting suspended, but not for the whole year. But either way, I mean, they improved their receiving core. You still got Travis Kelce, you got Isaiah Pacheco coming out of the backfield, and of course Patrick Mahomes. And the big thing this offseason was they did give Chris Jones a lot of money, so the Chiefs are ready to roll. And I think they're gonna win this division pretty easily, but we'll see. So, yeah, that's my rankings. You got the Broncos at 4, the Raiders at 3, the Chargers at 2, and the Chiefs at 1. And we do have a comment, and it's from Little... so it's from Lil Fett... I can't even pronounce it. I hope the Chiefs don't make... But they basically said, I hope the Chiefs don't make the playoffs. I'm so tired. He said, I'm so tired of them. Meant to say tired, but... yeah, I mean, listen, you're going to see them a lot, and that's going to continue. I mean, unless an injury happens, the Chiefs they're not going anywhere. They're here to stay. They're the new Patriots, unfortunately. So, yeah, that's my rankings for the AFC West. So, we're going to take our first break, and then when we come back, we are going to talk about the Sunday night matchups for the upcoming season. So I'll break them down, talk about some of the more intriguing matchups on the schedule there, and that's what we will do when we come back from our first break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.